What's up, wavers? Welcome to PhD in Waves. In today's video, I'm doing a product breakdown on when to use specific products and how to use them. I have a comb, I have a soft, hard, and medium brush, I have a Ziplock bag or a plastic bag, and I also have a detangler. Once you know what all these products do, you can pretty much create your own 360 wave routine because you simply have the knowledge of what each thing does. All right, so let's start with the comb. The comb is a very good tool for your 360 waves. It's very underrated. So basically what a comb does is it lifts up your pattern. The reason you want to lift up your pattern is because you want to penetrate each layer of your pattern. So the comb pretty much, it lifts up your pattern just like that. And it's going to penetrate, and it also pulls your curls and it straightens them. The teeth on a comb are hard, so they're really gonna go through and really straighten and pull your curls. And it's gonna penetrate all the layers of your curls. So that's why it's so important to have a comb, and it also detangles your pattern. And that's the best way to break forks. Whenever I want to break a fork, I like to use a comb because, like I said, it penetrates all layers of your curls. No layer is left out, and the teeth pretty much go through and it straightens your curls very nicely compared to a brush. A brush also does a good job, but the comb is really the best thing to detangle your pattern, straighten, and pull your curls. So every day I like to comb out my waves because that just makes sure all my hair is getting straightened, all layers are being penetrated, everything is getting straightened and pulled, and that's what I like to use the comb for. Literally the only downside to using a comb is it lifts up your pattern, and as a waver, you always want your hair laid. But the benefits of a comb are so important that you have to comb out your hair because you want to detangle your pattern. But once you start training your pattern more and more, the less your pattern will get lifted up and affected with the comb. Like for me, I'm combing out my hair right now, and you could kind of barely tell that it's getting lifted. That's because I put in so much brush work that my hair stays laid. So since it lifts up your pattern, this is the first thing you want to use during your brush sessions because you just want to get it out the way, make sure everything is lifted, detangled, and all layers are penetrated. Comb is also really good for distributing products throughout your hair. Since I said it lifts up your pattern, it really does a good job at distributing. When you're applying products, it does a really good job at distributing the products throughout your hair. So first you want to comb, lift up your pattern, then you want to start laying down your pattern with the hard brush. All right, so after the comb, the next tool that you need to know about is the hard brush. The hard brush is pretty similar to a comb because the bristles on a hard brush are hard and they really do a good job at moving your curls into place, but they don't exactly lift up your hair the same way that a comb does. A hard brush really does a good job at forcing your curls down and into place. That's why I love using the hard brush, especially when you're wolfing. You shouldn't really use this brush on a fresh cut because it's gonna scrape your scalp, and you don't even need a hard brush on short hair anyway. You really only need a hard brush when you're wolfing because all that hair, it's really hard to move it into place. So I really like using a hard brush while I'm wolfing because it really does a good job at forcing those curls into place. Those stubborn curls, whenever you're over wolfing or over curling, a hard brush will really get the job done. If you do around 10 to 15 minutes, a hard brush really is gonna control those curls, pull them, stretch them, and move them into place. The only downside to a hard brush is it causes a little bit of frizz. The hard brush does cause a lot of friction, and it can be a little bit damaging to your hair. So it does cause a little bit of frizz, and it might cause a little bit of breakage. So keep that in mind. But as far as wolfing and over curling, the hard brush does a good job at penetrating all layers of your pattern, forcing those curls to get straightened out, and pulling your curls into place. Whenever your hair looks super scrambled, or if you're over wolfing or over curling, use a hard brush. You should not be using a medium or a soft brush. You should be using a hard brush. So that's the order. After the comb, you want to jump right into using a hard brush. So after the hard brush, you want to move on to a medium brush. A medium brush is like an all-around tool for your 360 waves. You can use it at all lengths of your pattern. It's hard enough that it can move your curls into place when you're wolfing, and it's also soft enough that you could use it on shorter hair lengths. So this brush, it's an all-around brush. It's gonna help train your pattern. It does a good enough job at penetrating your curls, but it doesn't cause as much damage as a hard brush. So if you're on a budget, I would recommend investing in a medium brush because you can use it at all hair lengths. It's my go-to brush for training my pattern whenever I want to get in a brush session. And it also lays down your pattern much more than a hard brush. Like I said, those hard bristles, they cause a lot of frizz, but the medium brush causes less frizz, and it really does do a good job at laying down your pattern and training your pattern. Last but not least, we have the soft brush. The soft brush is a soft bristled brush. They're mainly made out of boar bristles. And this brush basically lays down your curls. It's gonna get rid of any frizz, and it's the best brush to use when you have short haircuts. Soft bristles aren't really gonna damage your scalp, and they're really gonna do a good job at laying down any frizz. And also, it doesn't really cause frizz either. So whenever you have a short haircut, the soft bristle brush is the way to go. So like I said, you wanna comb, hard brush, medium brush, then the soft brush, which doesn't really penetrate too many layers of curls, but it's a good brush to finish off your brush sessions with because it is gonna lay down that frizz and sort of polish your waves and add shine. The soft brush pretty much just glides over the first layer of your pattern just to lay down any frizz and things like that. But if you're wolfing and you're over curling, I would not really use this brush too much unless you're using it at the end of your brush session, because this is not really gonna move your curls into place. Bristles are too soft to move all that hair, so I like to just use it towards the end of my brush sessions. All right, last but not least, let's talk about the plastic bag or the Ziplock bag method. This method pretty much smooths your waves down, and it compresses your pattern, and it adds shine. So basically the way this method works is it uses the heat from your hand to help your products melt into your hair, and you're also just fully compressing and pushing down your curls. This is good because as a waver, you want your pattern to be laid, and the brushes can't really push your curls down. The brushes pretty much just pull your waves, but as far as the Ziplock bag method goes, you're pushing your pattern down and you're basically polishing your waves. This smooth surface doesn't cause any frizz. It simply just compresses your waves and it makes your waves more defined. Like I said with the brushes, they're gonna cause frizz, they're gonna cause friction, and that's gonna lift up your waves. But the Ziplock bag method doesn't lift up your pattern at all. It compresses your waves. This is the best thing you wanna do if you want your waves to be defined and compressed. That's why the Ziplock bag method is so important. If you want your hair to look silky, polished, laid, and healthy, you absolutely want to use the Ziplock bag method because you're basically just polishing and laying down your waves, and the products are better absorbing into your hair, so your hair is going to look a lot more moisturized and shiny. So that's pretty much the order that you want to go in when you're doing your brush sessions and when you're creating your own 360 wave routines. You want to start with the comb to detangle your pattern. Then you want to move to the hard, medium, and soft brush. And then you want to finish off with the Ziplock bag. All right, last but not least, let's talk about this detangling brush. It's basically in between a comb and a brush. So this is going to penetrate all layers of your hair, but it's also not really going to lift up your pattern too much. And you just want to use this in a shower. It's a shower brush just to detangle your pattern and move it into place. That's pretty much the only time I would use a detangling brush. I just use it during my wash and styles just to detangle my pattern. Now that I went over the combs and the brushes and the detangler, the last thing I do want to go over is a durag. A lot of people, they don't really understand what a durag does or how important a durag is. So after you train your pattern with the brushes and the combs, you don't want your hair to get messed up, because as a waver, it's very easy for our hair to fall out of place or get messed up. So a durag is really going to save your progress and keep your pattern laid. So right here, I have a silky satin durag, and what this is gonna do is it's gonna keep my hair protected from getting moved out of place, especially when you're sleeping, because when you're tossing and turning, your pattern could easily get dried out and move out of place. This is gonna protect your hair and save your progress. After all that brushwork you did, you wanna save your progress and make sure nothing happens to your hair. Another thing that a durag does is it keeps your hair compressed and laid. This also trains your hair to lay down. I know a lot of people, they like to focus on brushing, but the durag also keeps your hair compressed throughout the day. So over time, your hair is gonna learn how to lay down by itself. So that's why I love wearing a durag throughout the day, because it keeps my hair compressed and compact and it doesn't move out of place. So the durag is extremely important at training your hair to lay down. That's pretty much all the tools that you have at your disposal as far as a 360 waver. These are the products that you're using to train your wave pattern, because you want your hair to be stretched, laid, and trained. So that's what you brush and comb for, to stretch out your curls and to lay them down. That's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys learned something new, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.